Hello, I'm BrigantiaBlackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday and welcome back to Witch Life. This month we're talking about building personal traditions, and today we're talking about carving out the time. Life is quite hectic, and practicing the craft tends to make our time constraints all the more noticeable. This quickly becomes a source of frustration when we make the decision to implement our beliefs into our daily lives and not being quite sure how we're going to make that happen at all, let alone on a consistent basis. And we may have a very idealized, rose colored glasses, rainbows, unicorns, and kittens vision of how we want to practice our craft and how we would like that to look. And it can be quite discouraging when we compare our vision to what's actually going on in real life. Believe me, I'm right there with you. And in part, we may need to revise our expectations and be more realistic about what's possible to achieve and in what amount of time. But we also can't use realism and turn that into an excuse for getting lazy and not making the effort at all. And sometimes trying to balance that scale can turn into a psychological paralysis, which is the exact opposite of what we want. So, how do we break out of that non productive cycle? I think it comes down to taking a sober look at how we use our time, because we can't just add in a spiritual practice as intense as the craft without having to let something of lesser priority go. We don't like to talk about giving things up, especially after the past few years when a great deal has already been taken from us. And then you want to talk about voluntary sacrifices, that definitely doesn't sound like much fun either. But we can't add something onto an already full plate. Something has got to go. And this isn't to say that I believe this is easy. It hasn't been easy for me, and I'm a woman without children. So obviously, it is not going to be a picnic for anyone who has a family to raise or parents to look after or they have a particularly demanding job. But to begin with, I would suggest making a chart. You have 7 columns, one for each day of the week, and then each line going down, you can keep that as an hour. And write down what you're doing and when you're doing it. And this is just your average weekly routine, predictable obligations, as well as how you generally use your free time. Now, if you have no schedule of any description, as I understand some people just can't due to the nature of their professions, this would be an impossible exercise to complete. And in that specific case, you may need to get especially creative. This is probably not going to be a video that's going to be particularly helpful for those set of circumstances, but not everyone is in that state of complete random chaos. For everyone else who does have some measurable routine, once you are looking at this chart and you're seeing how you spend your time, circle everything about that is just non-negotiable. And then you see what pockets of time are left over. Because it is the leftover times from which you are going to be able to carve out consistency for you to study and for you to practice. And this will look different for every individual. And it may seem daunting to add to your routine, but the benefit is that if you have a consistent time for your craft, it's easier to make other people in your life respect that time and easier for you to get into the proper mindset at the proper time so that when you are in that moment, you're focused, you're clear, you know what you're up to. And this is another moment in which we find ourselves looking in the mirror and seriously asking ourselves what we really want. And if we like the idea of practicing the craft more than the reality of it. And does that require adjustments in how we define ourselves and our spirituality? Now, I don't want to be misunderstood or to give anyone the impression that I'm trying to chase someone away from the craft. On the contrary, anyone who has the ability, the drive, and the desire to practice the craft is exactly the person who I want to encourage to carry on, find their way, fulfill their potential, and make their own personal contribution to modern practice. But at the same time, that person is not every person who gets interested in witchcraft. Sometimes we get interested in things and realize, maybe there are boundaries, maybe there are limits, maybe this isn't something I'm really wanting full time, maybe this is something I think is really cool and awesome, but not necessarily what I need. And there also, I think we really do need to come to grips with this within the pagan community. Some people would not be happy or spiritually fulfilled from walking a path of witchcraft, however that path was. And they shouldn't be criticized if they conclude that that's not what they need. They don't really want that. It's not going to be necessary for them to be happy as a pagan. And when people are able to get off the road that isn't right for them, it opens up new avenues for exploration. And those are the roads that will lead that person to where they need to go and where they want to go. That is success. And that is what it means to never get up. It's not about trying to be that square peg trying to fit into a round hole. This is about figuring where you actually fit. Being honest with ourselves and about how we use our time can actually be quite freeing. Maybe we have frittered away some of our spare moments on unfulfilling pursuits or things that don't actually matter and aren't giving us anything. And now that we know where those time slots are, we can see we have an opportunity to repurpose that time that hadn't been productive for us, that hadn't been relaxing or giving us anything of value. We can do that, use that time for our spirituality. And we may discover that we, on the flip side, have massively overscheduled our lives and we are on the road to being completely burnt out. And that can make us realize that it's time to make a few changes in order to have a balanced life. But whatever it is we see when we make the self examination, let's look at it with clear eyes and be resolved to make sensible decisions going forward that are right for us as individuals. We don't answer to anyone else, but we do answer to ourselves. So that's what I have to say on that topic. Now it's your turn. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, or come see us on Discord at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below, and you would be very welcome there. But that'll do it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.